On this episode of The Cold Front, we're going to be talking to 3 meteorology organizations right here on campus.
We have AMS NWA of Northwest Indiana, Chi Epsilon Pi, and VUSIT. Find out all about them coming up in just a few minutes.
You're watching The Cold Front on VU TV, Channel 15.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Cold Front. I'm Lynnette Grant.
And I'm Lauren Hilko. Right now we are currently joined by AMS President Raylene Campbell, and we're going to be talking about the AMS NWA Northwest Indiana chapter. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So we're going to start out. So what exactly does AMS NWA do here, not only on campus, but just in general?
Okay, so AMS is primarily a meteorology organization that is geared towards the professional development of its students. So we work with a lot with resumes and career building and kind of where to go with your future. And we also do a lot of fun activities, as every organization tends to do. But past that, that's pretty much what our ultimate goal is.
Now, what are some requirements for people to join this organization?
So there's not any specific requirements, there's not a GPA or anything, but it's predominantly meteorology majors because all of our career information is geared towards meteorology career fields. However, there's also a lot of other things, so if people are more interested in just having a resume go through, that's another thing that they can do, but it's pretty much primarily meteorology. There's not any set requirements though.
Okay, now what type of involvement do you have in the community? I know that just back in October, Relay for Life. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Okay, so our big event every year for community is we're involved with Relay for Life, and we're oftentimes, we raise a lot of money throughout our department and the organization, and we're Team Twister, which is a fitting name, and we also, we do that, and then we do a lot of fundraising and fun activities to raise a lot of the money also. So we have silent auctions and things like that, and it's affected a lot of people just within our department alone. So with that, it helps bring us together as more like a family type setting. But we also do other outreach things. This year we're doing a dance marathon team, which is kind of along the same exact lines. It's just a different, instead of walking, you dance. So.
Oh, very nice. So I know that it's also been a big year for you award-wise. I know that you guys just went to the AMS conference in Oklahoma City. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the award that you guys received?
So this year we have been named the NWA, which is National Weather Association Chapter of the Year, which is a countrywide recognition for things like our public service and our career building and community involvement in a bunch of different aspects. And we've also been named to the AMS Honor Roll once again this year, which is another national recognition. So we've kind of working our way up there.
That's a really good accomplishment
Oh,
for
yes,
you guys.
definitely.
It is, because we're such a small organization, such a small school, that we don't have a big name. So those are really, it's a good feeling to see everyone that be so excited about it that's been involved.
Now, how does the size of the program here vary to sizes of different programs at other schools, for example?
Okay, so basically within our program, it's smaller in general, which we all know. But also, when you go to somewhere that's more developed and has a bigger name, like Oklahoma University, they have a larger grouping of people and more of a pool, even from the public. So for us, we work well with the Chicago NWS office, but there's also various other things that we try to work with. So it's a big thing to like take that step to get us out there. So because we are really small.
Okay.
Now, what's a way that students like get involved in? What type of like fun activities do you create or something for your organization?
Okay. Well, every fall and spring we have a picnic. We co-host it with VUSIT, and that's always a good time. We always take fun pictures and kickball and stuff like that. But we also do, during Christmas time, we have the Weather Center decorating. So everybody comes and decorates the tree, and we hang a bunch of little like Christmas trees and stuff from the ceiling and different things like that. We also do, this year we did Socktober during Halloween, which is donating socks, but they're always fun and goofy socks, so everybody enjoys that, and various other little things like that.
All right. What big events do you guys have coming up as an organization? I know you talked about Dance Marathon, but what other things do you have going on?
Our biggest event, well, one of them coming up this coming week on Monday, we have the National Weather Service Roadshow, which is another development tool for students to know how to pursue careers in various aspects. And we also have our biggest program, which is the Great Lakes Meteorology Conference, which is coming up April 2nd this year. And that brings in people, various speakers from all different fields. We have multiple schools that show up. Central Michigan's a huge one that usually comes. So we pull a lot of people, and it's hosted in the ballroom. So that's our big thing, and that's a really good, it's a smaller conference than national conferences, so it's a really good networking opportunity where everybody can know each other on a first name basis. So it's a good experience, and it's an all-day event.
So you think it's a very good opportunity for students then to attend all these things?
It is. It is because it gives you a good idea of what you might want to do, where some people, they kind of get stuck and they're like, well, I don't know, and it gives you an opportunity to explore different fields within meteorology.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Okay, well, I can definitely tell from not only the organizations and the different types of events that you put on that the Met department is a huge family. And I know Lynnette and I are both Met majors, so we know this firsthand that especially Team Twister and stuff for Relay for Life, and then now with Dance Marathon, that just brings the Met department together as a whole. So it's
All right.
that's what we try to do.
Well,
awesome.
Raylene, thank you so much for joining us today on
you
the
for
show.
having
We really appreciate it. When we come back to our break, we're going to have another organization on set with us.
Stay right here.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's the better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, if dying young won't change your mind, baby,
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR is my jam.
Welcome back to the Cold Front. Before the break, we talked to Raylene Campbell, the president of AMS NWA, and we talked a little bit about the closeness and how close just exactly the Met Department is. Now we are joined by Kyle Brown, who is the treasurer of VUSIT, and he's here to talk all about the organization as a whole. So thank you so much, Kyle, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for welcoming me in on this Friday afternoon.
Of course. Now, Kyle, tell us a little bit about your organization and what exactly you guys do.
Sure. So VUSIT, first of all, what that stands for the Valparaiso University Storm Intercept Team. Got that? So that's the acronym that we stand for, and the goal of our organization is to really, whenever we do have that opportunity for severe weather to be knocking on our door and it's chaseable, that's our main objective. But additionally, we also try to serve the campus and the surrounding community to make sure that they are severe weather prepared.
Now, I know that many Met majors are, interested in going storm chasing, getting that experience, but what kind of requirements do you have to be in the organization? Like, is it like you have to be a meteorology major, minor, grade point average, stuff like that?
Sure. So you may think that in order to be a part of this organization, you would have to be a meteorology major or a minor. That's actually not the case. Just like any organization, there are dues that need to be paid, and that's where it starts with VUSIT. But additionally, we train anyone who wants to go on a chase with us. We train them. There's 2 training periods. There is we do a VUSIT orientation, and what that entails more of our specific processes in terms of setting up the vehicles with the equipment that we use, what a pre-storm meeting might look like, or a code yellow, as well as the meeting that we would have before we go chasing, the code red. And then before that, we do a storm spotter orientation, and that is more talking about thunderstorm development, what a funnel cloud looks like, things that we need to be alert for when we're out in the field chasing.
Okay. Now, I know you mentioned a little bit about working with the campus community and stuff like that, but what other things do you do to, what involvement do you have with the community, I guess?
Sure. So within the community, I'd say that the biggest event that we hold happens in the spring. That's when we typically have one of the National Weather Service offices, representatives from those places, come to campus, and we open it up to the community. It's 5th hour approved as well, so it's open to the campus community. And the goal is to, it's almost like our spotter talks more or less, where it's kind of training people about severe weather spotting and the threats and dangers of severe weather. We also really try to push people and guide people towards where they can get this vital severe weather information. So, for example, every building on this campus has a NOAA weather radio. So no matter what, if there's an alert that's going to be that's going to impact the weather, that will broadcast at any building on campus, and then if action is needed, that action can be taken. And our organization makes sure that those batteries are up to date every year and that those weather radios are in good condition.
Okay. It's very good outreach that you guys do with that.
Yeah, yes, it is. And really, there are a lot of people who are very interested in meteorology, armchair meteorologists, as some of us may call them. So, you know, when people hear that, oh, people from the National Weather Service are coming, or, oh, VUSIT is holding this open event where we can learn about the weather, oftentimes we do get a very high response for those options.
Now, I know student involvement is really important, and I know you mentioned about code yellows and code reds. Could you go into a little details kind of explaining what exactly you do to prepare for those?
Sure. So what a code yellow is, that is maybe about 24, or probably about more 48 to 36 hours before we may go chasing. And that's our opportunity to gather in the Weather Center and talk about what we would be chasing, what we're certain of, what we're not certain of. And it's really a great opportunity for whether or not you're going to go on the chase that day, then you have the opportunity to learn about severe weather setups. Now, if at that meeting we decide, yes, we're going to chase, then typically the morning before we leave to chase, we'll have a code red meeting. And those typically 16 to 20 people that will be going on the chase, they will attend that meeting in the morning to have a further clear game plan for where we're going to chase that day.
I know usually it depends on the weather, but like how many day chases did you guys go on, or you yourself as your career here in Valpo?
Sure. So typically within any given semester, you may get two events a semester. This year has been quiet. There was an opportunity early October, late September where we were thinking about it, but the severe weather pattern wasn't quite within our chasing territory. We have to be very considerate of the time that we're going to be chasing. You know, if we have to leave early, and then what time we would be coming back at night. Is it going to be dark? And also, we are paying for gas, so we need to be mindful of that as well.
All right. Do you guys have any big events planned for this year?
Big events coming up. We do have our VUSIT annual banquet. We hold that off campus at one of the banquet centers. And that's really kind of like Raylene was talking about with some of the AMS events. It's a good time for meteorology majors to bond. But we also do invite, you know, if there's a significant other or a very good friend of the department, they can come along as well. And there's a small fee for those tickets, and that'll be coming up that first Friday in December.
Okay, okay. Do you by chance know when your organization was started?
You know, I do not know what date our organization was started, but from what I can tell from past records, I believe that VUSIT started as the Valparaiso University Meteorology Club. So it came before the AMS NWA local chapter. And then I think from there, at some point, maybe early to mid 2000s, then it kind of became the Valparaiso University Storm Intercept team. That's all I have for the history of the organization.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Kyle. When we return, we are going to be talking to Alex Kroll, who is president of Chi. Stay with us.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's a better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it
If dying young won't change your mind, baby,
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR is my jam.
Welcome back to the Cold Front. We had 2 of the 3 Met organizations sit with us on desk today, but we have one more organization still to talk about. We have President Alex Kroll here from Chi Epsilon Pi. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what your role is as president and what Chi Epsilon Pi is?
Well, Chi Epsilon Pi, we are the honor society for the meteorology department, and it is based on GPA to get into it. The main goal of our organization is to be able to promote knowledge of meteorology throughout the community here in Valparaiso and Northwest Indiana. My specific role as president is to run the organization, plan the e-board meetings, and coordinate all of our outreach that we have throughout the year.
Okay. Now we talked about how it is a meteorology honor society. So what type of requirements are there in order for meteorology students to get into this?
For the meteorology students, it is required that they be a meteorology major, and it is based on your GPA. And so the GPA changes depending on what year you are in here in the ValpoMet program. For sophomores, you are required to complete Meteorology 216 with a 3.7 GPA, which is an A-. By junior year, you have had to have completed Atmospheric Dynamics 1 with a GPA of 3.5, and then senior year, in the middle of the year, we'll have another inaugural for seniors who have completed Synoptic Meteorology with a GPA of 3.3, and your cumulative GPA must be 3.3 or greater for current members to remain a member in Chi Epsilon Pi.
So it's a pretty big honor, it seems like, to get asked to join one of these
Yes,
organizations.
it's a very tough program here at the meteorology department. Our professors really challenge us, and so to be able to have this high academic achievement is quite an honor in this program.
All right.
So I know you're talking about, academics and stuff, but what kind of involvement do you have in the community here in
One of the biggest things that we do in the community here in Valparaiso is community outreach events. And so with our goal being to promote meteorology knowledge, we love to travel to especially elementary schools to teach elementary students about how the weather works. And so we can talk about things such as tornadoes, snowstorms, and rain, and other types of hurricanes. But the biggest thing that we like to do with the students is to be able to provide interactive exhibits for them to work on, because young students really love to be hands-on, so we have a lot of cool instrumentation as well. Another big outreach that we do, our big event, which occurs in the spring semester, which this year will be on February 9th on a Tuesday, is Meteorology Field Day, which is held in the Union Ballrooms here. And so what we do is we invite elementary schools and middle schools throughout Northwest Indiana. We usually bring in about 600 students, and they travel to 10 different stations to learn about the weather through some very cool hands-on experiments.
That's a lot of kids in
Oh,
one
yeah.
place.
Yes.
I know I've helped with the broadcasting, and I know you have too, Lynnette. That's a great outreach program. And like you were saying, going into the schools and stuff, young children are the perfect age to start
Yes.
teaching them about the weather and making them weather prepared, because like we mentioned, the weather affects everyone.
Correct.
Why do you think it's a good age, a good time for these young students to get involved with meteorology and learn about it?
I think one of the biggest things that you'll find is that meteorology is always going to affect what you're going to do either that day or in the coming weeks. And so to have an understanding of kind of how the weather works and to be able to go outside and identify when the weather might be good to be outside or when it might be bad, I think is always very helpful. And plus it's always real interesting because it's something that happens and changes every day. And so to be able to see that change, I think is really cool and beneficial for students.
Right. Now we'll bring it back to the college students. And we know that there are a number of students in this organization, but what can students do within the organization as part of members throughout the year?
The biggest thing that our members do is continue to do community outreach and help us out. And so I think a big thing that we do is we do weather discussions in the Weather Center a lot that anyone is invited to come to learn about the weather and ask any questions that they might have. Why are the temperatures warm or why are they cold today? Or they can ask about a meteorology question. But I think the whole thing is to promote meteorology knowledge throughout the community, and that's what they do. So whether it be going to talk to the elementary school students or inviting students to come into the Weather Center give them a tour, explain what we do. And we also do some other community outreach to libraries and stuff that's not just for just for children as well.
Okay, okay.
I know that also, as upperclassmen being in Chi Epsilon Pi, you also have like a mentoring program and system.
Yes.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so the Chi Ep Mentor program that we have is meant for first-year students in the meteorology department. So it also includes transfers and new students who come in with already credits. And being in the meteorology department can be pretty intimidating sometimes, especially with the harder classes that you have to take. But what we like to be able to do is to provide these new students with someone who has been through this and has achieved well in the meteorology department, to be able to guide them and provide a personal contact for them to be able to go to. Because sometimes in the beginning, it's a little daunting to be able to talk to the professors, but once you get to them, it's easier. But if you're able to talk to a student who's almost in the same shoes and was just there a couple years ago, makes it a lot easier as well. And plus, they're usually always around in the Weather Center if you need them.
Most definitely. Now, I know that we still have a little bit left of this semester, plus all of next semester. Do you guys have any big events coming up in the near future?
Well, the biggest event, which we already talked about, is Meteorology Field Day, which will be in February on the 9th, which is a Tuesday this year. That is going to be our biggest event. Towards the end of January, we'll also be having our inauguration for new students into the semester. So we'll have sophomores who achieved a 3.7 GPA. We'll also have our juniors and seniors as well who have met the GPA requirements.
All right.
Now, real quick, do you know when the organization was started? Like, is this a newer or has this been around for a while?
This organization I know was founded in 1999 in the
Okay.
spring. That was our first inaugural class that we had. The requirements for GPA were a little bit different then, but
Okay.
the goal has been the same, was to recognize high achievement within the meteorology department and then also promote meteorology knowledge throughout the community.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show, Alex.
Absolutely.
When we come back, we're still going to have a little bit more to talk about. Don't change the channel. We'll be right back. You're all good to go.
On a campus plagued with terrible weather, Valpo students suffer from boredom with no motivation to leave their room. They begin to search for free movies and stumble upon Valpo's new free movie streaming website, where you get unlimited free access to recent movies like Despicable Me 2 and Jobs at the tips of your fingers. So if you're feeling bored, then don't wait. Grab some friends, find a seat, and enjoy a movie on movies.valpo.edu.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. We're sitting at 51 degrees right now. It's a little breezy out there, and we have a lot to talk about in terms of being cooler. First of all, remember yesterday it was in the 70s? We are almost 20 degrees cooler today than where we were yesterday. That has to do with a cold front that pushed through last night, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes, but I want to show you current temperatures. We mentioned 51 here in Valparaiso. It's 53 in Lafayette. It's already down in the 40s in Rockford. They barely hit 50 degrees today, if at all. We've been seeing plenty of that cooler air rushing in, all with these very high winds. 16 miles per hour in Fort Wayne, while 13 here in Valpo, and 14 miles per hour with that wind speed over in Kankakee. I mentioned that cold front that pushed through. It's all along the East Coast right now, extending all the way down even into the southern United States. Some rain overnight. You may have heard it overnight. I know I woke up to it this morning, but now things are drying out and we're seeing just these clouds that are sticking around, and they're very high clouds. So it is slightly sunny out there, but those clouds are still sticking around just a little bit, and they're going to be sticking around through the rest of the evening. Some rain is off to our north over in Michigan, but that's not affecting us here at all. And as we go through the overnight hours, that's when things clear out. So clear skies overnight mean things are going to get pretty cold overnight. So if you are heading out tonight or even tomorrow afternoon, you might want to bundle up because things, unfortunately, are going to be a lot cooler. Let's take a look at those temperatures. In fact, low 50s this afternoon, but then those cooler temperatures come in. We're at 41 degrees by midnight tonight, 42 in Chicago, and 41 over to our west in Joliet. By the morning, we drop into the upper 30s, so very brisk morning out there. Things warm up into the low 50s tomorrow, so a little bit of a chilly day on tap, so make sure to bring that jacket with you tomorrow when you're heading out, or even especially at night, because that's when those temperatures are going to get much colder, especially Sunday morning when you're headed off to Sunday morning services. Your day planner for the rest of the day, as I mentioned, we will see that sun peek in, but we will be at a temperature of 51 degrees, rapidly cooling into the overnight hours. Once that sun goes down, those temperatures are really going to drop off. So quite chilly overnight tonight, 37 degrees for that overnight low. And tomorrow we'll warm up to a high of 51, which seems cool, but actually that is normal for this time of year. We will see another warm up coming in the beginning of next week. We'll see those temperatures in the upper 50s by Tuesday. 60s on Wednesday, but that's when our next chance of rain looks to be for your Veterans Day before we cool off yet again by the time we get into the weekend.
I couldn't believe earlier this week, I know we were talking about this, we tied 2 records, broke 2 records, so a total of 4 different types of sets, and they were all warmer, so seeing people in shorts around campus was just amazing, especially for the month of November.
The past 4 days at or above those record temperatures, so
Thank
very
you so
warm.
much for joining us today. I know next week is Friday the 13th, if you didn't know that, so please tune in because we are going to talk about weather superstitions, so stick with us on that. So that'll be a very fun episode.
I'm excited for that.
Yes.
Thank you for watching us again. Thank you as well to our guests that we had on the show today. It was a pleasure having them with us. Make sure you stick with us for the rest of the weeks. We'll have more episodes to come in the future. Have a good evening.